First of all, who else would a member of Stem's music? Wouldn't it look crazy for me to call anybody else? Who else would I call?
You can call anybody.
I'm gonna call Jesus.
You chose me.
I'm gonna call Jesus. I chose my brother because, Jimmy tapped into it a little bit. But Jimmy and I've known Jimmy since I was 17.
Wow.
I'm 38.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 21 years. I was in high school singing with Steve McCoy.
Right, Steve McCoy days.
And Steven put us together.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you have the gift of writing. Jimmy is a producer. Y'all need to be partners.
Mm-hmm.
And from that day, so much has, happened. So many great songs, so many great things have come. People don't even know,
right.
that we've been writing together for over 20 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing I have admired about not only just you two, but your circle is that it's built on love and accountability. And as creatives, it's hard because when you're talented and gifted, a lot of times if you're in the wrong circle and no one's holding you accountable, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Why is it so important for creatives to surround themselves with like-minded people, one, and people who will hold you accountable?
You can't grow if there's no accountability.
Wow.
Honestly, I think that you want people around you that are able to not just support you, but are able to call you out on things that you may not see. We're not people who just wake up and have it all together, which is why we're always better together versus separate. You can do a lot of things by yourself, but it's always more impactful when you have a group of people surrounding you that can support you, that are aligning with you, that kind of have the same vision. Even if y'all don't have the same mindset, y'all grow to understand each other. You can kind of share different life experiences. I think that's what made me and Marvin work. We don't come from the same background, but there was something about us that just had to connect. And the reason we've been able to secure our friendship and be steadfast in it is because it's always been about accountability for us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So regardless of what's ever happened throughout the years, even in business, we would have to have the hard conversations that most friends would not want to have.
Right.
But I can say that we do have a very, very amazing group of friends, and we really all kind of are alike in that way.
So Marv, when it comes to having that circle of accountability and love, what do you think about that?
Jimmy really taught me what it means to be accountable and what it means to be a friend. I was his little brother for so long, and now I'm a big I'm still his little brother, but I'm a big boy. I'm a man now.
Right.
But for so long, Jimmy, was a protector for me. He gave me a voice when I couldn't speak up for myself, and he actually taught me how to do that. And so when there were times when we had hard conversations. I'm like, hey, you taught me how to do what you're doing to me. Why can't I, but it was important because, it taught me accountability and it taught me friendship.
Yeah.
A real friend is born of adversity. A brother is born of adversity. And so we grew beyond friends and became brothers. And that is why this relationship has lasted for so long. And that is why we're still together.
Yeah. Wow. Jimmy, as a producer, why is working on this project with somebody that you know? Why is that so special?
Because I know the story.
Wow. Yeah.
It hits different for me. I work on a lot of projects and I'm one that believes in connection. Even when I do projects, like I prefer to get with the producer so we can arrange together versus if you sending me something like I know how to do that. Yes. But it's different when you're able to actually sit and be a part of the process. And I know his process, you know what I mean? So lyrically, what I'm producing with him is coming from a different place. So it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of compassion. And so when people hear the lyrics, they need to feel that.
Yeah.
And so I think this is why it's so important for me and him to work on this together, because it's definitely going to hit differently than other stuff that I've done. Not because I haven't done stuff from that place, but this, I know everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
You all said y'all journey goes back to when you were 17. My question is, in this creative journey, how important is timing?
Oh my God. timing is so important. As a 17-year-old boy coming out of, PG County, coming up to Baltimore, I learned a lot just by watching.
Wow.
At the time, I was singing with Steve McCoy in Greater Purpose. That's how I met Jimmy. Mm-hmm. Again, Stephen put us together, as songwriter and producer. And I sat back for many years and I watched, because I believe in that, I don't know, Jimmy, you can call me out if I'm wrong now, but I believe that every artist should have the ability or the know-how to serve in the background.
Gotcha.
And in the front.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
I don't want to hear anything that you have to say or sing if I can't trust you in my section.
Right.
And I think that is what I learned so long, and that is what I watched. So long. I watched so many things. I watched people make mistakes. I watched people, come back after mistakes, and I waited until it was really my time, until the gun went off. It was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I came to Jimmy and Jason. Was it 2 years?
Yeah, the first conversation was we really started getting together last year.
Yeah. So it was when we went to Cancun, I talked to you right before your 40th. Jimmy, you 40?
I am. Most people don't know it.
Yes. I'm 38. I'm 38. I'm 38.
God has preserved me for such a time as this.
Yes, he did. I mean to put it out there. No, but I had talked to him because you turned 40 in 23. Mm-hmm. And right before you went away, right before we all went away for your birthday, I sat you down. I said, hey, I'm going to talk about a project. And then it was in January of 24 is when we really sat down. So yes, it was in January of 24. That's when we really sat down and talked about it.
What advice do you have to creatives who are struggling to find that circle of friends who not only challenge them, but support them? Because it's hard to find real ones. Either one of you can answer that question.
What advice?
What advice?
I would say, you have to honestly keep God first. Honestly, if you do that, you'll be fine, because that discerning spirit will tell you. Mm-hmm. Honestly, you got to have that discerning thing on you, because you got to pray. Because I feel like a lot of times people just meet people, but they don't pray for connection. Right. They don't really lead themselves with that kind of, because we think that like, oh, prayer is just for this. It's just for me. It's just for, no, you want to pray that people align with you. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody can come around and be cool, but do they deserve your space? Mm-hmm. And I think that is a difference that I've learned, which is why, sometimes even for me, Marvin has heard it, like people, I'm a really, really funny person. Right. But people don't know that, because they think they're like, oh, well, Jimmy don't talk. Oh, no, yes, I do. Mm-hmm. I just don't talk to you. Yes, I do. No, because the thing is, I come in and I speak, but I've learned that everybody isn't your friend.
And everybody doesn't deserve.
Yeah, like, so you're not going to get, what you're going to get is you're going to get love from me. Because I'm always going to give out love. But I can't give you something about myself that you don't deserve. You probably can't even handle everything about me. Right. Mm-hmm. But I know he can. Mm-hmm. I know my friends can. I know the people that I ask God about that I do meet that are new. I'm like, God, what do you think about this person? And if they silent, then I let my guard down. Yeah.
Yeah. God honors authenticity. And one thing I love about you two is that you are true to who you are. Your artistry, period. It comes with a stems where it's black all the time. I'm just picking on no, listen, when you see Marvin, Jimmy in black, just stand back and some music and art is going to be made that night. What advice do you have to creatives on staying true to who they are, especially in an industry where people switching up, drop of a dime? Why is it so important to be authentic?
Like Jimmy said, you got to stick with God. You got to keep God first. And you have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. You have to know who you are. Yeah. And you have to not allow the pressures of the world, elements or experience to force you into a box. Mm-hmm. And that is one thing that I can say I dealt with. I won't say I struggled with it, because I always knew who I was. Right. But I dealt with the pressure and the elements of other people's perception and
Expectation.
Expectation.
Explanation.
Yo, come on, yo.
Gotta be so deep
I
in
struggle with a little
You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong.
Yes.
No, but seriously.
Take 2. Go.
We struggle with that as creatives because we embody others' expectations of us.
Absolutely.
And that, once I let go of what these people expected of me or thought of me, then I was really able to really walk into my true self.
Yeah.
We have officially entered the B side of this decade. 2025, we're already 5 years in.
Mm-hmm.
What is some advice you would have gave yourself in 2020?
For me, let me tell you something. 2020, I lost it because I felt like, God just had just let all of this, I thought, I was like, man, how could this happen?
Right.
But if I could tell myself then who I am now, I would just say, be patient, stay the course,
Yeah.
and remember whose you are.
Absolutely.
You got to know who you are, but you also have to know who you belong to on this earth and in heaven.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jimmy, you want to add on to that before you?
For me, it was patience. It was, I would say that I would tell myself to be less afraid of what is going to happen and more assuring myself and affirming myself that God got me, because that's what happened.
Got to.
So for me, I would have been less frantic.
God. And that's the thing. We are church kids.
All day long.
We PKs, we church kids. Jimmy's grandmother's a mother of the church. My parents are pastors. We come from a very churchy background.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we cut our teeth in this whole industry. We learned how to do what we're doing in church.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that is one thing that I can say that I'm proud of. I stayed in church until I was ready to move into other arenas, because it did cover me,
right?
When I needed to be covered.
Yeah.
And, all of this stuff that we're doing, for cultural sake, and, other people's, pleasure comes from the church.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I work with an agency, and a lot of the soul stuff and a lot of the Motown stuff that I do, they're like, wow. Yeah, that's churchy.
That's right.
I'm squalling. I'm screaming right now.
It's amazing that you're talking about that, because we're watching generations after us grow up without that church background and experience, and we're seeing it in artistry. How do you feel about that?
Well, as an educator, I would just say that the children, they need it. Some type of spiritual experience, even if it's not church. We talked about balance.
Yeah, balance.
You need a balance, So that's one thing that I will say that my parents created for me. We were Pentecostal Holiness Church, yes, Greater Mount Calvary, but they let us dress up for Halloween. We went to the movies. I ran track.
Yeah.
There was other things that we experienced.
You were allowed to be a child.
Yes.
And not just the church kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Allowed to be a child to a certain extent.
And serve the Lord.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but even with that though, like a lot of people, a lot of church kids, a lot of preachers' kids don't have the balance, like you said, and it shows in adulthood, especially when we come to creativity and being an artist. Why is it so important to remain balanced or grow up in balance, like all three of us have grown up in?
Well, I think because it creates a structure.
Wow.
I think that a lot of times, if you only know one thing, how do you guide yourself to know better?
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like you really, some things people don't know because they wasn't taught. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's because even if you grew up, there were certain conversations you just couldn't have because you were quote unquote a church kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, oh, well, no, that's not for you. But it is for me, because when I go outside of church, there are things that are happening that I don't know because you haven't shared with me.
Right.
So we learn on our own, and we wonder why people rebel. but they rebel because there's lack of understanding. They don't have any hope most of the time because it's not being taught to them. They're being told, hey, go pray. Okay. So after I pray, what's next though?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because how do I assert myself in a way where this is going to land outside of the prayer?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't talk about those type of things because, you know, we're so driven on the churchy aspect of things versus the life aspect of things. And I do believe there has to be a combined aspect of both.
Yeah. And we're in an industry where if you are not confident in yourself or confident in who you, like you said earlier, who you are, you're going to crumble immediately.
Oh my God, yeah.
Immediately.
And that's what took me the time that it did. You know, one thing that you said to me, you know, I don't think you even noticed it, but when I reached out to you, and I told you I was doing a project, and I said, it's been a long time coming. You said, no, stop saying that.
Got to, man.
Yeah.
Quality takes time.
It takes time.
And I did not really realize what you were saying until we got in the rooms with the producers and we started creating and bringing this stuff to life. And I realized, yes, Marvin, you were fine.
Yeah.
Doing BGVs and singing with Steve and singing with Kevin.
Yeah.
And serving your father's church.
Yeah.
You were fine.
Yeah. And I told you that because I had to learn that myself, you know. We're going to talk about college in a second.
Yes, sir.
But knowing the fact that anything in life that is under heat, pressure, the longest, is the highest quality stuff, whether it be cars, whether it be food, whether it be fashion. It's like, okay, it takes 6 months to make a Rolls Royce, 6 hours to make a Toyota Camry. So it's like, after a while, which one do you want to create? And I told you that because it's like, bro, watching your journey, like y'all known each other since 17, and I met you when I was 18 years old. So to see at 18, see you here, and now we about to drop music, however long it takes, as long as it's done right, I think God honors that, bro. For real. So while we're in music, you have a song called Revival. Yeah. That's a part of the track list.
Yeah.
What is the inspiration behind Revival?
Man, to be honest, I wrote Revival.
Because it's prophetic. Y'all gonna hear it. But let me tell you.
I wrote Revival, and y'all can go back and check this out on Facebook because it's literally there. I wrote Revival the night that Freddie Gray got shot here in Baltimore.
Wow.
I was living here in Baltimore. I was a graduate student at Morgan State. And I just felt that we needed a shaking of the earth, of the community, the world. And look, 11 years later, and it seems like, you know, the same necessity is still at take here.
Absolutely.
We still need it. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this song. But it comes from a struggle, man. I needed revival in my own life. You know, there was a revival that needed to take place in the city, but, you know, I struggled. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I struggled. And a lot of people don't know a part of my struggle is, you know, addiction.
Right.
You know, I struggled a lot with that. And I had to go through that in order to be who I am now.
Right. And I believe Valentine's Day this year makes how many years?
8 years.
8 years.
8 years free of a cocaine addiction.
Right.
And so, you know, I struggled with that for a long time. But the crazy thing is, it's like something that you do, first time you do it, you know, you feel like you've done everything right.
Right.
Until you know that it's wrong. Especially if you're a person like me who had already completed college,
right.
You know, graduate school, you know, I'm already in my career. And I'm just still struggling like this. Right. I was like, this is not right. Mm-hmm. And it took for me to go to a place. I went to rehab 3 times. First 2 times, you know, Jimmy can tell you.
Jimmy.
The first 2 times.
Come on, Jimmy. Let me say it.
No, but you have to laugh about it to keep from crying.
Absolutely.
You know, the first 2 times I came right home and, you know, I just got right back into my same routine.
Right.
But it was something about that day on February 13th. And the reason why I claim the 14th as my sober date is because the 13th, I had still used. You know, it was the 14th when I woke up and I had done nothing.
Wow.
But it was something different about that place, Ocean Breeze Recovery. Shout out to you guys, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thank you all so much, saving my life. They did not care about Marvin McCoy. You know, I was only supposed to do 45 days. I agreed to do 45 days. I had used up all my leave, FMLA, all of that. And on my 45th day, I woke up, bags packed, ready to go. Went to see my counselor. I will never forget her. I will never forget her. Her name is Samantha. She saved my life. I was so mad at her that day. And I went into her office ready to get my papers, like ready to go. She was like, I'm sorry, Mr. McCoy, but after evaluation, we don't think you're ready. You need more time. Like, what? Excuse me? Do you know where I am? I got to go back to my job. I got a place. I got this. I got, you know, my dad's church. Excuse me?
Yeah.
But she didn't care anything about that. And I'm so glad, you know, because I was not ready in 45 days.
Wow.
And to those that are out there, if you're struggling, if it's been a while, more than likely, you're going to need more than a 30-day or a 45-day program. More than likely, you're going to need a 90-day program, babe. And so it took that for me. I actually did 90 days inpatient and then another 30 days outpatient. But what really saved my life, Steve, was when I got to that outpatient facility.
Wow.
And they gave us our walking rights, and people started overdosing in their rooms because they took their walking right and they took it to the drug man. And I will never forget, it was my first night. I called my mother. I said, Mom, they're wheeling this girl out of here. She and I came in. We just came in here today at 1:00. She's dead.
Wow.
And so that was what opened my eyes to how serious this thing was. And I was like, you know what? Absolutely not cocaine. Can't do that one.
Right.
You know, so that is what this song Revival is about. You know, it was during that struggle. And I hope that it brings deliverance to others who are suffering with not just addiction, but with hurt, pain, anything.
I admire you because, bro, like we talked about it earlier, all three of us grew up in church. Families, church, uncles, aunts, family, uncles, aunts, fake aunts, like parents. So for PKs, a lot of times it's a pride thing. Is like, what if people think of me this way? What if people think of me that way? And also the aspect of church people saying, oh, not so-and-so's son, not so-and-so's daughter. But it's like, yo, the enemy got a plan for everybody.
That's what took me 8 years.
Yeah.
It has a plan for everybody. And what advice do you have to people who are just like us that we know or don't know, who are suffering in silence?
Let me tell you, man, it took me 8 years because of the suffering in silence. Don't take on other people's expectations for you. Be who you are. Be authentically you. And tell your story. Even if you've been clean for 30 days, tell your story because it's going to help set somebody free. And I did it not because I wanted any type of recognition, not because I wanted anything, but I wanted to help somebody because I knew that it's somebody out there that needed to know.
Absolutely.
You can recover from this. It's not the end. Because cocaine is a hell of a drug, baby. No, they say it. No, they say it. They say it.
It's true.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Baby.
Don't play with that.
No.
You can play with a lot of things.
No.
But don't play with that one.
No, seriously, because you've been walking around here, been a little crunchy. You don't even know it's like that crunch fest is on you.
And Jimmy, there were many times where, I had came around and Jimmy was upset.
Pissed.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was upset.
Very upset.
Because of the state that I was in. But he did not take it out on me because he knew that at that time, I could not help myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, how do you navigate through, like, goes back to that circle of accountability and love, like holding your friend, like loving them and being like, yo, you got to get this together. versus abandoning them and making things worse like we've seen so many times?
Well, that's my brother, so for me, it wasn't about what he was doing, but it was how can I help? I know it's not my burden, but I realize now that he needs love. He needs support.
Wow.
He needs to know that he has a free space to speak. And so that's what I gave him. I gave him the free space, even when he lied to me. But it wasn't like for me today. No, lying. But the thing about it is, but I was okay with him lying, if that makes any sense, because it wasn't about me.
Right.
I knew he wasn't lying because he could not trust me. He was lying because he was still lying to himself.
Right.
You feel what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, while you're lying to yourself, what are you going to do? You're going to continue to spread lies throughout this process. And so I just decided to continue to keep showing up. Like every time Marvin would try to push me away, I kept showing up. Like, nope. And then I'm also going to let you know, I know. So
and I'm call your mother.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, it got to a point where I had to decide, I love you enough to now pull this rug.
Wow.
Because the reality of it was, Marvin's parents thought that he was done.
Wow.
But that's because he was still showing up, I knew he wasn't because we have this relationship where we always know when something's not right. I could tell in his actions because I know how he was on it and I know how he is off of it. So when those things started to show up the same way, I had to make a decision to say like, okay, do you say something and he be mad at you? Or do you let this man die? Because that's all you see right now.
Right.
And when it got so bad, I'll never forget when, is it okay if I share? I'll never forget when he called me and he was on his balcony and I had never heard him like that. It was, I knew he was high, but it was a different type of thing. And he was suicidal. Wow. And that thing crushed me. And I called his mom immediately. There was no like, we brothers, I know we got this loyal thing, but we don't share secrets. But at this point, this has to be said because not only, I'll never forget it because it was also raining that day, and this man is wet from literally about to take his life realistically. You know what I'm saying? And I never forget his mom when she got there. She literally the next day took Marvin where he needed to go. And she called me and she says, hey, I just want you to know Marvin is safe. You won't be able to talk to him for the next couple of days. the next month or so. But I'll share anything you need to say. I'll keep you updated. And she kept her word. And so I'll never forget when...
Love you, mommy.
No, seriously. I'll never forget when I was able to finally speak to him. I just wanted to know he was okay. And that's how I showed up. I allowed him to live in the space that he was in. I was honest. I was vulnerable with him. He was vulnerable with me. And I also wasn't afraid to seek help when we needed help.
Right.
And so I think that's, for me, how I feel like we made it through what he was going through.
Mm-hmm. And that's what brotherhood is about. I did not know that Jimmy was talking to my mother.
Wow.
I had no idea. And my mother didn't tell me.
Nope.
Until after, everything had already passed. But that's what true friendship, that's what true brotherhood is. And that's why this project and these lyrics, because it's not just Revival, but there's other songs on there too that address, pain, addiction, and suffering. Because that's really what drug addicts are going through. The suffering. And there's a story behind everybody's pain. But at the end of the day, there's a light at the end of the tunnel if you choose to follow through and go through with the process. Mm-hmm. For me, I did not choose. They had to squeeze my hand and say, you're staying here.
Yeah.
You're not leaving here. I don't care how angry you get. I sat in a room for 3 days and I protested. I didn't come out to any of the classes. I didn't do nothing because I wanted them to buy my plane ticket for me to go home. But had they did it on day 45, I don't know if I would be sitting here today doing this podcast with you guys.
Because he wasn't himself on it.
Wow.
Like the Marvin that you see today, he's always been Marvin, but there was something different about his personality that would come out. He's already naturally sensitive. So.
You see me crying.
Okay,
Why would you do that?
But like, it would be, he was dark. And not even dark physically, like it was a dark presence.
Emotion.
Yeah, that was over him. And that's how I knew. I was like, I went up to him and I was like, you using the game? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And no lie. He said that. We argued about it. Cool. Went out still. A few weeks later, we go out. Marvin keeps walking in and out of the movie theater. Okay, wait. In and out of the movie theater. Like, in and out. In and out.
All right, Jimmy.
Yo, I'm looking like, oh, he think I'm playing with him. Like, and we got in the car. I said something to him again. No, and what, try to manipulate me, make me feel, oh God. And that's how I knew. That was another thing, because that's when it was like he would really get extra angry and it would be like, why can't you just, you're supposed to be my brother. And he knew that wasn't going to work on me. So I would be like, no, Marvin, that's not going to work. But okay, cool. And we went out. Went to a friend's thing and I'm looking for him. I walk back to that car. He's so high that he's at the stuff is on the dashboard. He don't even realize, not even like that's how high he was. All of his discretion went out the building.
Out of the building.
And I swiped that thing off there and I said, we're leaving. And we got in the car. I literally I had to put my foot down. I said, do not talk to me right now. Like, no. Don't talk to me right now. Because you're not going to use anything right now because you're crying, but I know you're doing this right now because I caught you. Like, no, we need to talk about this, but we can't do it right now. You need to calm down. And then we just talked about it and he finally let me in on everything that I had been confronting him about.
But you mentioned something, Jimmy, that is so important. One of the reasons why people did not know or people don't know is because we do show up.
Yeah.
And addicts show up every day just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And we put on our poker face and we suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Because that is the way that we were taught to deal with our addiction.
Yeah.
Nobody, you don't want anybody to know that you're going into the bathroom and you're putting a powdery substance up your nose. Excuse me?
Yeah.
But
you still have an image to protect.
You have an image to protect. But, so you still show up for church. You still lead praise and worship. You still, go on the road with choirs and sing background for artists and do all that stuff. You do all that stuff because it's expected of you. Mm-hmm. But February 13, 2017, the buck stopped. God said, not anymore.
Yeah.
And I thank God for, my friends, my brother who is here today, my parents, my family, my aunts, my uncles, my teachers, my coworkers, everybody, because they all pitched in to make sure that Marvin would be okay.
Wow.
And nobody knew how long. I didn't even know how long I was going to be in Florida.
Wow.
I signed up for 45 days, and Jimmy can tell you, I am a bullheaded person.
Very.
Okay.
Still to this day.
I'm a bullheaded person. You tell me 45 days, that's what I'm expected to do. So when she came in that room saying, you can't leave, that was also God.
Wow.
Protecting me. Bringing the revival that I had wrote about.
Right.
That was the revival right there.
Yeah.
That was the revival. Yeah. When they came in that room and they said, young man, And then the testimony is, even though I had used up all of my leave, because the reason why I was so irritated, because I wanted to get back to work so I could start earning money, pay my rent, yada, yada, yada. But the testimony is the same lady who denied me of being able to leave the rehab center was the same person who initiated the sick leave bank application for me.
Wow.
So when I came in to meet with her the next day, I was still irritated. I was like, yeah, so I'm going home, right? She was like, no, but I have this form that I need you to sign off because I reached out to, your HR. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got out of rehab, I went in February. By the time I got out in June, my bank account was full, thousands of dollars, because they had back paid me from February to June. Because when I went away, I didn't have no paid leave. Mm. I was just going. There wasn't no paid leave, but I was going because I had FMLA. Mm.
I didn't know how big he had got it. Because he needed to know. That's friendship there. Hey, friend. You see this picture?
Listen, man.
That thing was bad, though. I really didn't like that. I did not like that. And so, God, thank you. Thank you, sweet baby Jesus.
I really feel like it's not about the journey prepares the destination in my mind. And hearing you all share this story is like, it makes so much sense that now is actually the time, like, Marvin, it's time to be an artist now because you've been through something that people don't get out of. And you still have your gift.
Yeah.
You still have the ability to sing. How many people do we know go through that and please don't get my microphone no more?
Yeah.
Like, please don't. So when it comes to this recording, what do you want people to feel? What do you want the listener to feel? And that's a question for both of y'all.
What I am most excited about, I know you talked about the feeling, but what really, really gives me the excitement is the blending of the musical worlds. Yes, I'm a church boy. We're all church kids.
And he's a world-class musician. We're going to get to that in a second.
Trained opera, Morgan State University.
Bowie State, all that good
Bowie
stuff.
State, so, I went to Bowie State for undergrad.
Right.
And then Morgan State for graduate. So all of that is going to be captured in this one record. Yeah. And there's a blend. So we're going back to the days of like B.B. Winans, Mary Murray, Whitney Houston, Oleta Adams, Anita Baker. So there's an inspiration in the story. You know that we love God and you know that we serve God.
Yeah.
It's evident in the music.
Yeah.
But there's a cultural balance. There's a balance word again. There's a cultural balance and there's also a cultural experience.
Wow. Because
a lot of church singers and a lot of church musicians are not classically trained.
Correct.
They're not even trained in jazz or any other type of form. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that, you have a producer who has vocal training in
Baltimore City. Yeah. I mean, Baltimore School for the Arts. Yeah. Please forgive me. I said what I'm saying. It's in Baltimore City,
with the Baltimore School for the Arts. And then you have the artist who trained operatically here in Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
It's like, why not blend these worlds and show all of you.
Right.
Not just that one churchy, screamy side.
Right. I'm glad we're in college right now. I met Marvin Myer McCoy.
Oh my God.
at Morgan State University. I'll question for you, Marvin, because a lot of times in my freshman year, 11 years ago, I watched your journey as a student, but also artist or developing as artists or working with artists. A lot of times we see a lot of grad students who get fed up with the course because, like, I'm tired of this teacher. Who does this person think they are? And I'm working with this artist on the weekend. So, and they leave. They never come back. What pushed you to stay the course because you have your degree? What pushed you to get the degree, finish? Because so many don't.
As far as staying the course, for me, it was important because education was always valued in my home. My mom is an educator.
Right.
Dad was an educator. Dad is a preacher. I have an aunt who is a DC public school teacher. My uncle, education was just always a value. Mm-hmm. And so my cousin, we have a doctor in the family.
Wow.
So, when you have a doctor in the family, you at least have to earn some type of certification, something.
Yeah.
Did I say certification?
You know what I'm saying? You got to Keep it going, you know?
It's certificate. It's certificate. You need a certificate or a certification.
There we go.
That's what it was.
There it is. We're here now.
You need a certification in something. And so that's what really, really pushed me, man. And you know, at Morgan, I was juggling being, you know, a STEMS background vocalist, singing opera, also still singing with Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get your certification.
Trying to get your certification.
Yes, you were.
I mean, it was all of that was taking place at the time. So that's what also pushed me to stay the course, because I knew that, you know, even though my teacher wanted me to be, you know, an opera singer only.
Whose teacher didn't want
That was our thing.
Okay.
That's always.
I mean, all of my teachers, he was like, you're going to ruin your instrument if you keep screaming and booing like that, you know. You'll never make it to the World Opera.
Listen.
No, but yeah, that's what it was.
So, wow. How excited are you to actually blend both styles of your voice? Because, or even having Jimmy help you with that, because I'm going to say it. The person who I looked up to at Morgan when I first got there when it comes to vocals and tenor, bel canto singing is this brother right here.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And Jake gets, as soon as you left, everybody was like, oh my God, Steve, shut up. He's trying to be like Marvin. Every concert, I'm like, nah, I'm singing like this.
There's a standard. You have to lift up the standard.
Raising on that.
Raising on up.
No, but Jimmy can tell you, because I really brought these ideas to him, and, you know, he brought it to life. So, Jimmy, take that question.
I just think it's important. I mean, it's who Marvin is.
Wow.
I mean, realistically, you know, one thing I've always told Marvin is that you have several things in your voice.
Yeah.
So my job for me, I knew, was to push him to do all of it. Mm-hmm. You know, even when we do background and stuff like that and different things, Marvin will tell you, I'll stop him and be like, nope.
Okay.
Yeah. Use your training, sing right through that phrase. No, you're not going to, nope. Because Marvin is an overthinker, like naturally.
All vocalists are.
Yeah, it's naturally. So I try to get him to relax and rely on the fact that, like, God gave you this gift for a reason. You're able to read, you're able to do all these different things. So combining all of this into this project is really going to be one for the book, because it's going to be a true testament to him as the artist. You're going to see it.
Right. I have a question for you, Jimmy. You probably get asked this question a lot because we see you, whether it be producer Jimmy, whether it be Barry Gordy Jimmy, whether it be singing Jimmy, whether it be with all the hats that you wear, and both of you are extremely versatile when it comes to the arts. Do you see yourself being a solo artist at any point in your career?
So what's crazy is I'm getting asked this more and more and more and more. I don't have the patience for it. I'm going to just be honest. Like, you know, I love production. Yeah. I don't like having to, it's a lot that comes with being an artist, which is why I support artists, because I really do believe that it is a hard job. Like, I've seen it. Every artist that I've worked with, like, I see what they go through, and it also lets me know that I do not want to go through it. Like,
and that's why I waited.
Like, wow. No, thank you. But I love doing this. Like, I just, it's my love. Like, I love writing. I love producing. I love singing. But trying to get out there and be the one that we do stems, bookings for like band and stuff like that. That's fun for me. But trying to be the solo artist or whatever. Now, I did say that I am going to put out some music, but it's going to be me and still my people. Yeah. It's not going to be like a solo project. That's just me getting my ideas out, because I have a lot of music in my head that I just want to get out, especially when it comes to like my musical that I am working on. Yeah. So like for me, I'm putting my stuff into that versus trying to be this artist. I'm leaving that up for my brother to go in and do his thing.
You know what? To be completely honest, my mindset is not too far off kilter. Wow. You know, I am a singer, you know, and so I love to sing, and I am an artist. And I'm doing this with people that I love. I'm doing this with people that, I've been singing with for years. First of all, me and Jimmy, before we became songwriter and producer, we were singing partners.
Okay. Holding a tennis section down. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Like, just us two. Right there. Let's go.
Yeah.
First of all, we were singing partners. So that in itself is also the, still in my mind. And that's another reason why he's still around and why I still choose to do things with a group, versus me just getting out there and doing something like, like a Lawrence Brownlee, you know what I'm saying? Where there's no BGBs, there's only like, no.
Grand piano.
You know what I'm saying? So I still want my people around. I still want my tribe around. I just need the space to be able to express myself.
Gotcha.
However, this is still my people. Mm-hmm. We're still a tribe.
I want to talk about the tribe for a second. I can't let y'all leave without asking the Stems question. Because what I'm seeing now in our region is the influence of Stems on a lot of different groups. Like you said, did you all think, because all y'all are friends, did you all think that y'all friendship and y'all sphere or circle, whatever word you want to use, would actually be the influence and the trend of what's happening now in the DMV region? Because it's a lot of different friend circles coming up. Oh, we all sing too. We all can wear black too. Not like them, but. Did y'all think that you all will be influencing the next group of people coming up?
Honestly, I did.
Wow.
If I'm being honest, I feel like we've always had impact, but it was different because of the camaraderie that we had. And so I feel like people looked up to that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're still looking up to it. And so I feel like the way we were molded, Stems music was created to give an opportunity for artists.
Yeah.
Everybody that sings in Stems music is an artist. And I had saw a market that I knew wasn't being treated fairly. Sometimes singers didn't get when you hire people to come and do your thing, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times singers were unappreciated. And so for me, I was like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a market for us to be just as loved as this next group, because they're literally like as a group of people. And so I knew that the sound that we were creating, because we were able to go in different elements and people like, oh, that's them. Oh, that's them. Oh, that's them too. I knew that eventually it would catch on to the point where people would actually look up to it. And I'm always honored for real when people mention us, or when I see things that I see like people emulating and doing different things. Like for me, that's amazing, because that's what we did this for. We didn't do it for pat on the back. We did it to create an impact.
Yeah. Bob, you want to add on to that?
Just being a part, I watched the evolution, for so long. I was Jimmy's little brother.
Right.
I was Jimmy and Steven's little brother. Okay. And then once we, came back to DC and started songwriting and producing for Kevin, that's when I was able to have a voice and, I was speaking up for myself. So that's when I was able to kind of see, okay, yeah, you may have a voice in this thing. So, but I watched for a long time.
Wow.
I watched. And I think that that's the most important recipe to my ingredient. That's what did I say?
No, people go. The important, that's the main ingredient.
Be my
ingredients.
Okay. What he's trying to say, stay on the course. Okay, that's what he's saying. Okay.
But seriously, that is the most, important thing.
Yeah.
You got to watch, especially if you're unsure. Yeah. And then you getting out there and you don't know what to do. Wow. Now, it's different if it just comes naturally for you. Yeah. And, you just get out there and you know how to slay the house down. Boom, go, fine. But for me, I was leading songs with Steven and Kevin, but I wasn't necessarily ready to be an artist.
Wow.
I was writing songs, yes. And then coming into Stems music, that's when I evolved into an artist, because Jimmy pushed me and said, no, not only are you going to sing this line right, but you're going to wear the right stuff. You're going to make sure your image is correct.
Black.
You know.
Wearing black.
And he didn't approve everything that I did.
Right.
And that I submitted. You know, and I think that is what you need on your team.
Yeah.
If you do not have anybody in your life that is going to disapprove what your idea is or what your whatever is,
that's right.
And you can't walk away with just saying, okay, cool, let me think of another one. If that's going to hurt your feelings, if that's going to mess you up, then go away, boo-boo.
No, for real.
That's real, though.
You have to be honest in those things because, again, none of us need yes men around us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, support and being a yes man are two different things. And so for me, I just pride myself on being honest because I want people to be honest with me. So for me, like, that's how I treated, like, especially when we got into that zone.
Yeah.
Oh, no. At that point, we knew people were looking up to us. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's more so a thing of like, okay, cool. So we know people are looking up to us, but we cannot just present anything. Mm-hmm. And we stayed on this course for a reason. Like, we stayed here and we grew, and we didn't work this hard for us to be like, what?
Yeah.
Like half do it? No, we're going to do it. Let's just do it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
come on.
And I've taken that mentality into every workplace that I have now where I am a musician.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, everything I wear, everything I do, everything I say, it comes from the mentality of being mentored, you know, by James Johnson through Stems Music. And I cannot, Stephen McCoy, you know we love you.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. First of all,
we call Stephen the founder.
None of this would even be possible. Stephen trained us as Levites.
Wow.
So by the time we even got, you know, to Kevin and Stems,
Kevin Terry.
Kevin Terry.
Such a record straight.
By the time we even got there, we were already worshipers.
Yeah.
We were already praisers. We were songwriters. Jimmy was the producer, but the worship and the praise was there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen would literally spend hours in rehearsal, be like, I'm not teaching another song until y'all till we tap in.
Yeah. Now he would take that to the engagements, and we did want him to shut up because it's you're talking about 30 minutes now.
Preaching the whole sermon.
But we love him because it was in his heart. He meant it. That's the thing. It wasn't like it was fake. He really meant that thing. So it was his passion. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he taught us that.
As we're wrapping this up, you two are two creatives that this region and this world looks to. Mm-hmm. You guys are trendsetters. You guys set the tone. When it comes to this recording, why should the audience that knows of you lean in even more and embrace and take in what you guys are about to pour out into the world?
Why should the audience lean in even more? Because there's a message for every listener.
Yeah.
There's a song for every listener. That goes back into the blending and all of that. But, and we want to cross over. You know, I don't just want to be on, you know, for those of you that have Sirius XM Station 64, for those of you that don't, you know, praise 104.1. I don't just want to be on those stations. You know, you can put me on 48 if you know what I'm talking about. No, but in all seriousness, seriously, I think that one of the biggest inspirations in my life was Whitney Houston.
Wow.
And of course, you know, she was great friends with BB and CeCe Winans. And then of course, Warren Jones and Mary. I mean, you just don't get any better than that. But that is the lane that we're taking.
Yeah.
You know, that's the lane that we're taking.
Jimmy?
I feel the same way. I feel like the people are going to, again, hear exactly who Marvin is.
Wow.
I think that, like, you'll get a church, you'll get life music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do know that he wants to cross over and stuff like that. And he has the voice to do it. I think that even with him singing, you know, the genre, I think the journey of the music for that night is what people are going to be most impacted
The
by.
substance of it.
Yeah, because it's substance behind it. You know?
Oh, it's a little substance. Now this church, you know what I'm saying?
All
And
right.
see, one thing about me is, you know, and Jimmy can tell you because we do open mics all the time.
Right.
But I will get up at an open mic and sing a gospel song.
That's what
And tell the people to clap like they're in church.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that that's what's important because, you know, you got some people that'll go to open mic and before they'll go to a church service.
Yeah.
Any day of the week.
Absolutely.
And who's to say that God can't meet them there and save their life?
Well, he's done it. Like, no, but for real, it's true, though.
Who's to say that?
Yeah.
When is the recording and how can people connect with the journey leading towards the recording?
Recording is taking place on Friday, May 2nd. The GoFundMe set up right now. You can find it on all of my social media platforms. Any sponsorship.
Social media platform. Drop it.
What?
Your social media platform.
So you gotta put that out.
Amen. And it is invite only. So we want to
support you other ways.
I still need your support. But because of the venue, we have to make sure that the numbers. Stephen, hush your mouth. This is a serious moment. I'm trying to get the sponsors. The serious moment. No, but seriously, I really do need sponsors. We've raised quite a bit of money, you know, through our sponsorship. So it's really, really been helpful, and it did help us secure what we need to secure. But due to the venue being, limited, it is a private event. But you are able to connect by sponsoring and donating through the GoFundMe on my social media platform, Marvin Myer McCoy on Facebook, and at Marvin on Instagram.
Jimmy, how can we connect with you and Stems as well?
Yes, on Instagram is James Jimmy Johnson, and as well as at Stems Music.
Y'all, thank you all for tuning in. This is not the last time Jimmy and Marvin are coming on this show.
Oh, no.
Let me be very clear. Listen, until next time, continue to stay the course.
Yes.
Go with God. Stay with Him. Trust the process because there is light and beauty at the end of the tunnel. I'm Steve Jones Jr. Thank you for tuning in. And this is the Moment Podcast. We out of here.
Peace.
We gone.
Thank you.